The song Natalie sang is a poem by Langston Hughes, set to music. Song for a dark girl. I'm a dark girl, a black girl. I am really suffering today.
And Jacqui, I'm a light boy, a white boy, and I am suffering today.
I listened to Cheryl read the text, and we've been wrestling with that for a little while. And the question I have is about the suffering. Paul says, I'm convinced that the suffering we're enduring is not worth comparing with the glory that's about to be revealed to us. And the image that he has in his mind is that of labor pains, a woman who's about to give childbirth, whose limbs are being pulled and stretched by the thing inside that's trying to come out. Some mothers say, labor pains are pains you forget. I don't know about that. I think some man wrote that, I think. And but so are these labor pains? It's late summer 1619, a year before the Mayflower, and out of a violent storm appears a Dutch ship. The ship's cargo hold is empty except for 20 or so Africans, whom the captain and crew have stolen from a Spanish ship. The captain lands at what will soon become Jamestown, exchanges the Africans for food, and then sets sail. The colony that was to be called Virginia had tobacco but no laborers. So in the 1620s and 30s, white people from Great Britain were imported to work the land. And then London burned and labor was needed at home. So they started using Africans for labor. And because the Africans were not Christians, they could work for a really, really, really long time and be punished with impunity. Why was this labor important? The people were dark. They could be easily recognized. They could not blend into the American melting pot. 3 servants working in Virginia for a farmer named Hugh Gwynn ran away to Maryland. 2 were white, 1 was black. They were captured in Maryland and then returned to Virginia. The 2 white guys got punished with 30 lashes and 4 more years of labor, but the black man, a man named John Punch, was ordered to serve his master or his assigns for the time of his natural life, here or elsewhere, the first African enslaved. In 1625, there were only 23. By 1650, there were about 300 enslaved Africans. In 1700, more than 1,000 Africans were being brought into the colony every year. In 1698, there was a company that had a monopoly on importing slaves, 5,000 a year. And some of the other British businessmen were upset about it, so they pushed Parliament to dismantle the monopoly, and suddenly there were 20,000 Africans. Let me just say it again, 20,000 Africans per year kidnapped. Moms, dads, teenage boys who had just finished their rites of passage, girls, young women looking good for breeding. 20,000 Africans a year. And in 1705, the Virginia General Assembly wrote, all servants imported and brought into the country who were not Christians in their native country shall be accounted as slaves. All Negroes, all mulattoes, all Indian slaves within this dominion shall be held as real estate. Real estate. Any slave guilty of robbing or any other major offense could receive 60 lashes, be placed in stocks where his or her ears would be cut off. And for minor offenses, such as associating with whites or learning how to read, they could be whipped, branded, or maimed. Their black lives did not matter, except to make the money flow. Are those labor pains, John?
If these are labor pains, Jacqui, this is a 4 centuries long process of labor. And it is, unfortunately, with the hope of birthing justice and equality on this continent, and we are not there yet. I need to say on the very front end of what we will be trying to talk about up here for you and for all of us today is that we are standing between two very difficult realities. On one hand, the 4 centuries of oppression, still ongoing, and on the other hand, violence toward police officers. And I want to say to you, we have to refuse to be pushed into making a choice between these two stories. What is happening is despicable. It is an outrage, and we need to stand up and be heard against what's going on right now. And we need to stand up and be heard about the injustices that have been going on in this country, on this continent, for 4 centuries.
You know that it starts with President Jefferson.
Yes.
It starts with President Jefferson, who writes in his Notes on Virginia, back to the people in Paris, that he has a suspicion only, that blacks are inferior to the whites in endowments of body and mind. And then an American scientist, Samuel Morton, claims that he can measure brain capacity by the size of the skulls. And he decides that the Caucasians are smarter. And then Josiah Knott says, nations and races like individuals each have a special destiny, and the blacks are destined to be ruled by the whites.
Well, this current outbreak of protest and its backlash is only the most recent manifestation of an ongoing battle for justice and equality in this land. It is a national spasm for the soul of the country. And in our current context, we are faced with ongoing and systemic undermining of, yes, democracy in all of its aspirations, through the gerrymandering of voting districts and voter suppression, the concentration of wealth to historic proportions, the principle that corporations are people, the leveling of income for the middle class, and the deepening of poverty across this country, the staggering unjust incarceration rates of people of color, the loss of pensions and the declining home values, the rise of temp employment that pays low and gives no benefits, the crushing student debt and the underemployment of college students, college graduates, property tax formulas that fund schools that guarantee unequal access to quality education, and the resegregation of schools, and a racially prejudicial justice system. And now add to all of that a government so polarized and so self-serving as to appear to have abandoned its duty to serve its own people. Now add to that we are a culture armed to the teeth. I wish I had fought harder, and I don't think the fight is over, but we need to fight against this issue around guns. Some people are telling us we'd be better off if we were all armed. That is a lie.
Today is 2 years since Eric Garner was killed. And though we still can't catch our breath, Officer Pantaleo not only is still breathing, he takes a paycheck home every day from the NYPD. That ain't right.
That ain't right.
102 unarmed black people were killed by law enforcement in 2015. In 2014, it was about the same number. One of them, Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy. A 12-year-old boy who was a big boy for his age. And so the grand jury didn't even indict the 2 police officers in the killing. His mom and his sister were paid $6 million in April. Does that balance out his loss of life? Can $6 million account for the life of a baby? I just need to say that, John, that I can't say this, geneticist Richard Lewontin proves that there is more genetic difference between two common houseflies than me and Emma Wu. Me and Emma Wu are more alike than that. And there is only one race, we all know that, it's the human race. But still, when we're talking, amen, you can clap for that, there's only one race. When we're talking about race, what we're really talking about is ethnicity, and we're really talking about physiognomy, but nonetheless, skin tone matters, ethnicity matters, race matters in this land of the free and the home of the brave. And I'm sorry, John, I love you, but whiteness matters.
Yes, it does.
Whiteness matters. In 1790, laws were passed that only whites could become citizens in these United States. Do you know that African Americans couldn't be citizens until 1868? The 14th Amendment, and Asians, and I mean, I gotta tell you, Asian immigrants were ineligible for citizenship until, are you ready for this? 1954. 1954. Native Americans, First Nation peoples could not be citizens until 1924. And in 1830, they were marched across this nation that was their nation, and their land taken away. This conversation is about way more than black and white.
Yeah.
In 1854, the Supreme Court of California, this is a shocking story, had convicted a white man of murder, rolled back the conviction because the one who testified against the white man was a Chinese person. And the Chief Justice ruled that a Chinese person couldn't testify because they are, quote, a race of people whom nature has marked inferior. Don't let anyone tell you that the white thing is just about the black thing.
And our
Amen.
current circumstances, Jacqui, in our current circumstances, I consider that what we're living in now is an enhanced, updated, barely cleaned up, contemporary version of Jim Crow.
Amen.
Economic and social apartheid. Yeah. So what's going on? People are angry, they're upset, they speak of their suffering and their pain. White Americans are sensing their numbers slipping and their power fading. Now, I'm going to say some hard things to white people about us. Just so you know, I know who I am. They are soon to be without the numerical majority in this country. They, many of them, not all of us, but many of us, resonate with those who say, "Follow me and we will take back our country. We will make America great again." Don't have to mention any names here. But understand that this language is code. It is code that divides, and it unleashes hatred that resides just under the surface of this society. It is a well-worn and often, unfortunately, successful strategy of divide and conquer. And I have to say that the anger over the twice-elected black president is palpable among many whites, and the backlash now is manifest in the run-up to this 2016 election. White people, this is our problem. We need to get together and have our hard talk about what these issues are and how they impact the lives of our brothers and sisters in this society.
John and I sit around talking about race all the time.
Yes, we do.
When we were both consultants at the Alban Institute, when I had a crush on him for being kind of a smart feminist, womanist, black, and white.
Going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually got to be friends talking about race. We got to be friends trying to problem solve around race for this company that was doing work around race. We got to be friends telling each other our stories. We got to be friends sharing stuff about Mississippi and Philadelphia and ancestors and parents. And I fell in love with this womanist advocate, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
And the truth of the matter is, I don't know what I would do if I woke up in the morning and I didn't wake up next to John. What I mean by that is, it could be really easy. It could be really easy for all of us to retreat, to fall back from, to disengage, to make broad sweep generalizations about the other. It would be easier to do that. So being in love with John keeps me honest, but it doesn't keep me from seeing the problem of white supremacy in America. We got a problem.
You got a problem.
We got a problem. And so you might be saying, yeah, that feels like an opinion, but actually, white wealth, and what I mean by wealth is income, assets, stuff you have, minus debts. White wealth is fully 12 times black wealth. 12 times black wealth in an average family of 4. Contrastingly, black unemployment is at 9.2% and white unemployment is at 4.4%. Black wealth, black unemployment, black incarceration rates, black income, black resources, black school districts, black neighborhoods bereft of computers even for students to study, black communities devoid of good grocery stores. America is built on a fault line of race, and this isn't about how we feel. This is about the facts that are undisputed. We have a problem in America.
We have a problem. So, Jacqui, alongside all of these realities is the organizing of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
And this was organized in response to a range of injustices, not just one thing. And so aggravated are those invested in the status quo that they have made the absurd claim that this movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, is itself racist by its very name.
I get good hate mail this week because I re-signed the Black Lives Matter pledge. I had signed it 3 years ago, but I signed it again. And you get people writing you saying, those racists only care about those thugs. It's a special experience.
Right. But we need to recognize that this is a long-standing strategy to turn the equation upside down, to blame the victims of something for what has been imposed upon them. So this past week, I listened to Rudy Giuliani. You were there? You heard it too? Insisting in his news interview that all lives matter, and adding his sense that the Black Lives Matter movement is racist for that very reason. Insisting that all lives matter is to dilute and disparage the idea that Black lives matter. It is a clear example of the audacity of white supremacy to make such a claim. And I'm here to say today that all lives will matter only when Native people's lives will matter, Latino lives matter, Asian lives matter, LGBTQ lives matter, refugee and immigrant lives matter, poor lives matter, and all of them will only matter after Black lives matter.
That's right.
That's the equation. So now there are calls for unity. Yep. Reconciliation.
Kumbaya type.
Peace.
Peace.
The thing that disturbs me about that is that to move right now to mending the divide is to try to fix something that hasn't been fully examined. It hasn't been fully owned. It hasn't been fully addressed. It hasn't been worked on, the hard work that has to be done now in this society to really bring about what is an honest healing process. It's all, from my point of view now, needing actions. It requires us to do something, not just to feel something. And I have to say, I even have folks in my family who will choose a well-organized opinion over understanding the truth and the facts.
Amen.
So save your opinion until you know what you're talking about. All of us. And I have to say, the calls for this kind of quick resolution are likely immature, premature, and they might be appropriate after police departments and the judicial system, and yes, the U.S. Congress have owned the fact that we have this problem. When that happens, then we have a possibility of some hope to work toward. Otherwise, without actions, hope cannot reside in this culture. We must recognize that the battle for justice and equality has been going on for a very long time, and it is likely to go on indefinitely, which requires of us that we stay in this conversation and that we stay active around the need for justice and equality in this society. The most crucial step we now need to take, in my opinion, is that we understand history. We know our history, and we can repeat the history. We know the story, and we can tell the story as a corrective to the falsehoods that are being perpetrated now. And let me also say that white history and black history are tied together, but they are not the same.
Well, the person who writes the story
Controls
the story. Amen. Yeah, and so just so before you turn off and go, oh my God, they're talking about race, we are going to be talking about race. Let me just say it one more time. We are going to be talking about race here at Middle Church. We are going to be talking about race and racism here at Middle Church, not only because the board has decided it, not only because the staff has planned it, but because God requires it. It is required. Oh yeah. We do not get to be Christian. We do not get to be people who are following after the Christ and not look at all of the systemic and personal ways that racism marginalizes a whole people and not take it to heart and head and know that it's our marching orders. Amen. So I love you. I want you to feel good. I want you to feel happy and well-adjusted and peace-loving and stuff. But some of it's going to be uncomfortable and give you a little dis-ease as we work on that together. And Middle is going to resource you. The website right now on the matter of Black lives has a slider, and every day we will add bibliography, resources. You will be kept informed about how you can do this. Secondly, we're really committed then to resource our children. When I see these babies up on the stage, the pulpit, when I see the babies on the pulpit, I look and I see a multi-culti, multi-ethnic future. And I see hope. I do see hope. And I want these children to learn in this place to love Uncle John and Uncle Bob, who are married. I want the people in this place to learn that when they see a trans person, that person is living in their truth. I want the children in this place to understand the power of racism to cripple lives, and that they will be learning as babies how to dismantle it. So that's what we're going to do also. And the third thing that you can count on is that we know that this anti-racist work requires many strategies. So it requires public theology. Jim is putting together right now a 30-second or less series that's going to start going up next week that's dealing with the issue of anti-racism or racial justice. I am speaking twice this week. We're going to keep writing about it, blogging about it. There's a letter that was written by the Auburn Fellows that says we need to revolutionarily love the police and the Black Lives Matter activists. That's up for you to sign on the website. We're going to keep speaking, not only in here, but also out there, a vision for a healed and whole world, one in which every racial ethnic person, all of us, can be in the fight for racial justice. Can I say this before you say this? Because before white people were white, you were German and French and Scotch and Italian, and somewhere in here, America pressed you to lose your ethnicity to pass for white. We're going to just claim your multi-ethnicness too. Amen?
We're also going to work to alleviate voter suppression through an aggressive effort at voter registration.
On the website, in the media right now at Middle Church, a quick, easy way to register to vote.
And we want to annoy our representatives to address the issue of gerrymandering of districts, voting districts in this country. We want to become institutional members of the ACLU and draw on their resources to know the issues. And this is always one that gets put on the back shelf, but I think there still needs to be a conversation about reparations in this country. So we need to find ways to share the wealth with young people of color especially, create jobs, provide training, mentoring for them, and a safe place for them. And maybe even ask some hedge fund managers to help us support it. So in closing, the creation is waiting like a woman in childbirth, groaning in labor pains, waiting for the children of God to be revealed. We have to show ourselves, show up as children of God, equipped with passion, armed with knowledge, commissioned and called to end racism in this country. This is the way we will heal the creation, and this is the way our country will be healed.
And John, the children of God, we have to show ourselves. The creation is waiting for us to be revealed. We've got to show ourselves to be the children of God we are designed to be. And to be the children of God means to be like God, as in full of power, full of love, full of promise, possibility. That each of us has some birthing to do. That each of us has some God-imageness to show, that we are called to co-create a new and more just society. We need to find ways to celebrate those things when we see it happening, like those policemen in Dallas, who, though they were under fire themselves, sheltered Shatamia Taylor and her 4 sons. I mean, at her feet and at her head, and one literally threw his body on top of her and her son to save their lives. Now, you could say that's their job, but I think they were acting a little bit like children of God right there. We have to see it when we see it and call it what we call it and celebrate it and love it and encourage the behavior that's the behavior that we want to see. This polarization and demonization ain't gonna really get it done.
So what are we asking of this congregation?
Stay for the talk back. Go on the website. Be informed. Don't shy away. Don't run away. Don't leave because we're in a tough time. Hang in here. This is an amazing, this is when I walk down usually. You know, come
Okay,
down?
I'll go with
you know,
you.
I would like to go down to the bottom and say the last bit on the floor.
Okay.
Don't leave because the going is hard. Don't give up because the conversation is hard. I'm trying to hold your hand.
All right.
Whatever. Don't disconnect
Right. Stay connected.
in the conflict. Because we're in a time of conflict. And though we are pacifists and we don't love the imagery, we also are at war. We are at war. We're going to walk down now. In a war, an ideological war. A war of love versus hate. A war of cheap, tweetable, polarizing quips about each other versus complex, deep analysis that understands that every human being, I'm not black like anybody but me. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just black like me. And John's not white like anybody but him. And so when we kind of cast each other in these roles that are not nuanced, we fail so miserably at seeing each other's humanity. Don't do that. Resist that. Resist echoing BS that you see online. Oh, I want to say the word so badly. But the BS that you see online that is BS, and you echo it and say, isn't this BS? You actually still gave it more power. So don't do that. Delete it. And know that this congregation needs your support, and I mean in every way. There are very few experiments like this in America. It ain't happening. Look at this room. Look at this place. So bring a friend next time. And yeah, you could volunteer. And your opinion matters, and your support matters, and your love matters. That's what I want. What do you want?
And your lives matter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your black life matters to me. And your life matters. But no kidding. Don't misunderstand. Black people in this nation are the most castigated, the most maligned, the bottom of the barrel, the most on the margins. And when black lives really matter, all of our lives are going to be better. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.